with your Friday lesson. So I will be giving you a little bit of information from the PowerPoint and a little bit of learning. And then there is a short assignment for you at the end of this video and at the end of this PowerPoint. So I'll go through the PowerPoint in a little bit more detail than what's on the notes. And then you'll have an activity for you guys to do at the end. So continuing on with water systems, we're going to talk about the distribution of water and where all the water on Earth is found and what we use and what we can't use and how we can sort of make it usable. So water is one of the most precious resources on Earth, and we learned last class through the activities that you did that we use it in a lot of different ways, not just for drinking and for food, but for recreation, for personal use, for household use. We use it for a bunch of different things. However, 97% of the water on our Earth is actually found in the ocean. It is salt water. And if you've ever gotten a mouthful of salt water while swimming in the ocean or at a beach or anything like that, you know that salt water is gross and it is not very usable as it is. So neither us nor other land-living organisms can drink salt water. Our bodies are not designed to process it very well. It does not help our overall body systems. It does not help with our cell functions. Going on from that, of the remaining 3%, which is considered fresh water, having no salt, 2/3 of this water is frozen. So it's in ice caps, it's in glaciers, it is somewhere in the Earth that is not currently available to us. It is frozen and would need to be melted in order for us to access it. So 2/3 of 3% is 2%, which really means only 1% of the water on Earth is ready to go for us to consume as fresh water, containing no salt and not being frozen. So if you want to think about it in a different way, if we have 18 liters of water, this is 100%, Earth's fresh water available to us is just that 1%. So this is all the water on Earth that we have, and this is the amount that's ready for us to go and ready for us to drink. So you can see that there's a very big difference between the water that is on Earth and what's ready for us, accessible, ready to go for us to drink right away. How do we use water? Now, again, this was meant to be an in-class activity. What are some of the ways we use water? You guys have already done that in the previous lesson, but you can see I have a few examples here. We can water ski, we can take baths, we go to the washroom, we use it in the kitchen, we water our plants, we go fishing. There are a ton of uses for water, not necessarily involving fresh water, but just uses of water in general. And when we think about how limited water is as a resource, especially fresh water, we use it for a lot of things that may not necessarily be the best for the overall sustainability of it. And then how do we use water as a country? So these are facts that I got from online resources. I tried to make it as specific to Manitoba as I could, but I kind of kept it with Canada as well. So use of the water in the home, it's a small picture here, but on the PowerPoint it will be bigger. But about 35% of the water we use in our home is for showers and baths. 30% is for when we flush the toilet after we go to the washroom. 20% is for laundry. 10% is for kitchen and drinking, and then 5% is for cleaning, which adds up to 100%. And just some facts that I got for you guys is that we as Canadians use about 329 liters of water per person per day. So not just per day as like a country, but every person in Canada almost uses 350 liters of water every single day that they are alive, which is quite a lot of water when we think back to our very first slide where we only have 1% of fresh water available to us. So we are second only to the US for water usage and water consumption, and we're twice as much as Europe. So we use 350, call it, just for round numbers, or we use 300, we'll say. Europe is half of that. So they only use about 150 liters of water per person per day, and we're double that. 69% of families reported using tap water as their primary resource, and 19% reported using bottled water. Now, this is 15%. And again, when we think of bottled water versus tap water, we can talk about the use of plastic or anything like that. But when we think of tap water and that almost 70% of Canadians say that that's their primary resource, that tap water is not necessarily coming from a fresh resource. Like we either have to clean salt water, unfreeze the for other fresh water, or we have to add some different elements to that water in order to make it safe for us to drink. So there's pros and cons to each form of the water, whether it's from your tap or from a bottle. There are things that have to happen to that water that make it safe for us to consume. When we talk about water being distributed, so we have the 3% of fresh water and 90% is salt water. When we break down that fresh water, like we said, about 70% of that is in ice caps and glaciers, 30% is in groundwater, and then 0.9 is in other areas. So when we talk about the fresh water, 87% is in lakes, 11% is in swamps, and then 2% is in rivers. That's fresh water, liquid, like ready to go kind of thing. So we mentioned here, we talked about groundwater making up about 30% of the fresh water available to us. So what is that? What is fresh water, or what is groundwater? Sorry, not what is fresh water. What is groundwater? And groundwater, sort of a definition for you guys that we didn't get previously, I believe. So groundwater is water found underground in the cracks and spaces in soil, sand, and rock. It is stored in and moves slowly through geological formations of soil, sand, and rocks called aquifers. So 30% of Earth's fresh water is underground and must be purified of other elements before it can be consumed. So when we talk about groundwater, that is fresh water, but even though there's no salt in it, there is still other stuff in it that is not good for us. There's like minerals and other things like that that are still not necessarily good for us in large dosages. So even though it is fresh water, stuff still has to happen to it before it is safe for us to consume. So you'll have a lot of groundwater coming through your taps, and it has to be sterilized and cleaned before it is safe for us to consume from the tap. And this all happens before it reaches you in your tap, but it's still something that has to be done before it is safe for us to drink. Now, two jobs work directly with water systems found on Earth: a hydrologist, which is a person who studies the Earth's water systems, and an oceanographer. This is a person who studies the oceans, including things such as its geography, so its layout and its land and its formations, the physical components such as the currents and the temperatures of those water, and as well marine life. So those are the two main careers. I think we talked a little bit about them last time. And finally, here is your homework assignment, which I will go over briefly. So Guelph, which is in Ontario, is one of the largest cities in Canada to get most of its drinking water from a groundwater source. So Guelph specifically gets a majority of its drinking water from groundwater, so from water found under the Earth's surface. And so your only assignment is to do a little bit of reading about Guelph and its groundwater consumption and how it accesses it and how it cleans it. So I will show that to you guys now. Again, just a little bit of a reading talking about Guelph's groundwater system and how they go about getting it and how they treat it and how they make it safe for consumption. Just pretty much just a page of reading there. And then just a quick reflection sheet based on what you read on the previous page. And that is all that you guys will have to do for today's lesson. Now, this is a Friday. I don't expect you guys to be working on this on the weekend. So take your time with it. But coming back on Monday, I will have a new lesson for you guys. So take your time with this. If you have any questions, let me know. I am here and available. And I hope you guys have a good weekend.